Yuna checked her tablet for the third time as she walked through the massive metal corridors of the Galactic Security Bureau's Central Command. The orbital station was huge, bigger than anything she had ever seen on Earth. Aliens of every shape and size moved past her, some walking on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6. Some floated in the air. She tried not to stare. Her hands were sweating. This was her first real job after graduating from the academy. She was supposed to be a data analyst in the logistics division. Numbers and spreadsheets, that was her thing. Safe, predictable work in a quiet office somewhere. In this giant station, the tablet beeped and showed her the location for new recruit orientation. Room 47B in the training sector. She followed the signs, her small travel bag bouncing against her hip. The hallways got wider as she went deeper into the training area. The walls changed from smooth white metal to reinforced gray steel with blast marks and scorch patterns. That should have been her first warning. She reached room 47B and the doors slid open. Yuna stepped inside and froze. The room was full of giants. Actual giants. A massive creature with dark red scales and 4 arms stood near the front, easily 9 feet tall. Next to it was something that looked like an armor bear mixed with a rhinoceros, its thick hide covered in scars. There were at least 20 other beings in the room, all of them huge, all of them armed with weapons that looked like they could destroy a building. Yuna was 5 feet and 5 inches tall. She wore a simple gray jumpsuit that the academy had given her. She carried a tablet and a bag with some spare clothes. She did not have any weapons. She did not have any armor. She definitely did not have 4 arms or scales, or look like she could punch through a wall. She must be in the wrong room. Yuna started to back toward the door when someone grabbed her shoulder. She jumped and spun around. A woman stood there, also human, but she looked exhausted. Her eyes had dark circles under them, and her uniform was wrinkled. Yuna? Yuna Park? The woman asked. Yes, that's me. I think I'm in the wrong place. I'm supposed to be in logistics. Oh, thank God you're here, the woman said. She pulled Yuna to the side of the room, away from the other recruits. I'm Minji. I work in HR. We have a situation. Yuna's stomach dropped. What kind of situation? Minji pulled out her own tablet and showed Yuna the screen. See this? This is your file. It says you're assigned to the Monster Division. The what? Monster Division. They hunt dangerous creatures. Escape bioweapons. Genetic experiments gone wrong. Basically anything that kills people and can't be reasoned with. Yuna looked at the massive armed beings in the room. Then she looked down at herself. Then back at Minji. There's been a mistake. Oh, there's definitely been a mistake, Minji said. She swiped through several screens on her tablet. The database had a glitch during the new recruit assignments. Your file got mixed up with someone else's. You were supposed to go to Logistics Division, but the system put you here. Okay, Yuna said slowly. So you just need to fix it, right? Change it back? Minji made a face. That's the problem. To process a transfer between divisions, I need approval from 3 different department heads. Then the request goes into the queue. The current wait time for interdivision transfers is about 6 months. 6 months? The bureaucracy here is terrible, Minji said. Look, you have 2 options. You can wait on the station doing basic tasks until your transfer goes through. Filing papers, cleaning duties, that kind of thing, or... She hesitated. Or what? Or you can temporarily fill this position until the transfer comes through. The Monster Division is desperate for people. They lost 3 hunters last month to some kind of space predator incident. They need bodies. Yuna looked at the room full of massive alien warriors again. One of them was sharpening a blade that was longer than Yuna's entire body. You can't be serious. I know it sounds crazy, Minji said. but they mostly need people for support roles. Monitoring equipment, tracking targets, that kind of thing. You probably won't even leave the ship most of the time. Probably? Look, it's either this or you spend 6 months scrubbing floors in the maintenance sector. At least this way you get field pay, which is triple the normal rate. And who knows, it might look good on your resume. Yuna thought about it. 6 months of cleaning toilets versus 6 months of... what? Exactly. Sitting on a ship while giant aliens fought monsters? It sounded insane. But the idea of spending half a year doing nothing useful made her feel sick. She had worked too hard at the academy to waste time like that. Fine, she said. I'll do it. Just until the transfer. Minji looked relieved. Great. Okay. Go join the others. Orientation starts in 5 minutes. Yuna walked toward the group of massive beings. They barely noticed her. She found a spot near the back and tried to make herself small. A creature walked to the front of the room. It had 4 arms, each one thick with muscle, and its skin was a deep blue-gray color. Its face was flat with 4 yellow eyes arranged in a square pattern. When it spoke, its voice sounded like rocks grinding together. I am Commander Hyunwoo, it said. I lead Squad 7 of the Monster Division. You are all here because you have proven yourself capable warriors in your home systems. You will now prove yourself capable hunters. The other recruits stood straighter. A few made sounds that might have been their version of excited agreement. Hyunwoo single quotes as eyes scanned the room. They stopped when they reached Yuna. All 4 eyes focused on her. The commander walked closer, its heavy footsteps making the floor vibrate. It stood in front of Yuna and looked down at her. What are you? Hyunwoo asked. Human, sir, Yuna said. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. I can see that. What are you doing in my squad? There was a mix-up with the assignments. I'm supposed to be here for 6 months until my transfer goes through. Hyunwoo made a sound that might have been a laugh or a growl. Yuna could not tell which. A human. In the Monster Division. It turned to address the whole room. This is what happens when bureaucrats make decisions. They send us someone who will break if a razor spine looks at them too hard. A few of the other recruits made sounds that were definitely laughter. Yuna felt her face get hot. Can you even lift a pulse rifle? Hyunwoo asked her. I passed basic weapons training at the academy, Yuna said. Basic training. Hyunwoo shook its head. Fine. You want to be here for 6 months? You will be here. But you stay on the ship during operations. You monitor communications and scanners. You do not leave the ship. You do not touch any weapons. You do not engage any targets. Understood? Yes, sir. Good. Hyunwoo turned back to the rest of the group. The rest of you, follow me. We start physical assessment immediately. The massive warriors filed out of the room, following the commander. Yuna stood there for a moment, alone in the empty orientation room. She looked down at her tablet, at the file that said she was a monster hunter. 6 months, she told herself. Just 6 months. How bad could it be? She had no idea how wrong she was. 3 weeks had passed since orientation. Yuna spent most of that time learning the ship's systems and watching the squad train. Squad 7 consisted of Commander Hyunwoo, a massive tracker named Dong-yoon, who belonged to a species called Clerics, and 4 other alien hunters. They were all strong, fast, and deadly. They practiced combat every day, firing weapons that could punch holes through solid steel and sparring with each other in fights that would have killed Yuna instantly. She stayed out of their way. She learned the communication systems, studied the scanner equipment, and memorized the different types of creatures the Monster Division tracked. There were hundreds of them. Some were natural predators from dangerous worlds. Others were illegal genetic experiments or bioweapons that had escaped from labs. All of them were deadly. Yuna told herself she was safe. She would stay on the ship. 6 months would pass. Then she would transfer to logistics and never think about monsters again. Then came the mission to Turthos 4. The squad gathered in the briefing room. Hyunwoo stood at the front, pulling up images on the main screen. Mining colony on Turthos 4 has a razor spine problem, the commander said. One specimen mature adult. It killed 3 miners yesterday and injured 5 more. Local security cannot handle it. The image showed a creature that made Yuna's blood run cold. It looked like a cross between a wolf and a centipede, with 6 legs and a body covered in sharp, overlapping plates of armor. Its head was mostly mouth, filled with teeth like broken glass. Razor spines are fast and aggressive, Hyunwoo continued. Their armor can deflect most small arms' fire. Weak points are between the plates and the soft tissue under the jaw. Standard hunt and kill mission. We drop in 4 hours. The squad began checking their weapons and gear. Yuna went to her station on the ship's bridge. Her job was simple: monitor the squad's vital signs, track their positions, and maintain communication. Nothing dangerous. Nothing scary. The dropship landed on Turthos 4 in a rocky canyon area near the mining colony. The planet was hot and dry, with red sand and sharp cliffs everywhere. The squad moved out in formation, weapons ready. Yuna watched them on the scanner, small dots moving across her screen. Target tracks heading north. Dong-Yoon's voice came through the comm. The Clerical tracker was sniffing the ground, following the razor spine scent. Fresh, maybe 2 hours old. Stay together, Hyunwoo ordered. These things are ambush predators. The squad moved through the canyon, following the tracks. Yuna watched the scanner, monitoring everything. Her heart was beating fast, even though she was safe on the ship. She told herself to calm down. Then Dong-Yoon's dot on the scanner separated from the group. Dong-Yoon, you are off formation, Yuna said into the comm. I see something. Dong-Yoon's voice came back. Secondary tracks. Might be a second target. Negative, Hyunwoo said. Return to formation. Just checking this one thing? Dong-Yoon's comm went dead. His vital signs flickered on Yuna's screen, then disappeared. Dong-Yoon, respond, Hyunwoo ordered. Dong-Yoon! Nothing. All units, converge on Dong-Yoon's last position, Hyunwoo commanded. Move! The squad rushed toward where Dong-Yoon had been, but Yuna saw a problem. She pulled up the thermal scanner, adjusting the filters. There, in the canyon where Dong-Yoon had gone, she saw 2 heat signatures. One was definitely Dong-Yoon, his body temperature matching Krolik's biology. The other was moving in a circle around him, getting closer. She tried to warn the squad, but the canyon walls were blocking communications. The signal could not get through. Yuna stared at her screen, watching the second heat signature move closer to Dong-Yoon. In maybe 2 minutes, it would reach him. Yuna stood up. Her hands were shaking. She was supposed to stay on the ship. That was the rule. That was the safe thing to do. But someone was about to die. She ran to the weapons locker and grabbed a pulse rifle. It was heavy, much heavier than the training rifles at the academy. She checked the charge, made sure the safety was off, and ran down the ship's ramp. The heat hit her like a wall. Turthos 4 was much hotter than Earth. She ran toward Dong-Yoon's position, following the path on her tablet. Her lungs burned. Sweat poured down her face. The rifle felt like it weighed 100 pounds. She reached the canyon and heard a sound that made her freeze. It was a low clicking noise, like rocks scraping together. She moved around the boulder and saw them. Dong-Yoon was backed against a cliff wall, his weapon on the ground several feet away. The razor spine stood between him and the weapon, its armor body blocking any escape. The creature's plates were a dark brown color, almost invisible against the canyon rocks. It was bigger than the images had shown, maybe 12 feet long. Its mouth was open, showing all those glass teeth. Yuna raised the rifle. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely aim. She fired a shot at the ground near the creature, not trying to hit it, just trying to get its attention. It worked. The razor spine spun toward her with terrifying speed. Its 6 legs dug into the ground, and it charged. Yuna ran. She did not think about it. She did not plan it. Every instinct in her body screamed at her to run, so she ran. The canyon floor was rough and covered in rocks. She jumped over them, weaving between boulders. Behind her, she could hear the creature's legs clicking against the stone, getting closer. She turned a corner and the canyon got narrower. The razor spine was fast in open ground. But here, between these tight rock walls, it had to slow down. Yuna was smaller. She could squeeze through gaps that the creature could not fit through easily. She remembered something from her academy training. An instructor had talked about persistence hunting, about how ancient humans on Earth used to chase prey until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Humans were not the fastest runners, but they could run for a very long time. Yuna kept running. The razor spine kept chasing. She led it deeper into the narrow canyon, making sharp turns, climbing over rocks, always moving. Her legs felt like fire. Her lungs were screaming, but she did not stop. Finally, she reached a spot where the canyon became extremely narrow, barely wide enough for her to fit through. She squeezed into the gap and turned around, raising the rifle. The razor spine tried to follow her, but its armored body was too wide. It got stuck in the narrow space, thrashing and clicking in rage. For the first time, Yuna had a clear shot at its weak points. She aimed for the soft tissue between the armor plates, just like the briefing had said. Her first shot hit. The creature screamed, a sound like metal tearing. She fired again and again, forcing herself to aim carefully despite her shaking hands. Each shot hit between the plates, where the armor could not protect it. The razor spine thrashed one more time, then went still. Yuna slid down the rock wall, her legs giving out. She sat in the red sand, the rifle across her lap, trying to breathe. Her whole body was shaking. That was when she heard footsteps. Hyunwoo appeared around the corner, followed by the rest of the squad. They stopped when they saw the dead razor spine wedged in the narrow canyon. Hyunwoo looked at the creature, then at Yuna, then back at the creature. "You left the ship," the commander said. "Yes, sir," Yuna said. She tried to stand, but her legs would not work yet. "You engaged the target alone." "Yes, sir." "You killed it." "Yes, sir." Hyunwoo was quiet for a long moment. Dong-Yoon appeared behind the commander, looking embarrassed but alive. The big Kralix hunter stared at Yuna like he was seeing her for the first time. "Explain," Hyunwoo said. Yuna explained about the thermal scanner, about Dong-Yoon's cum going dead, about the creature circling in to attack. She explained how she had drawn it away and led it into the narrow canyon where its armor became a disadvantage. When she finished, Hyunwoo nodded slowly. "You broke orders." "Yes, sir." "You saved Dong-Yoon's life." "I hope so, sir." Hyunwoo extended one of its 4 arms. Yuna took it, and the commander pulled her to her feet. "You did well, human. I was wrong about you." On the flight back to the station, Dong-Hyun sat down next to Yuna. "Thank you," the big Kralik said quietly. Yuna nodded. She was too tired to say anything, but as she looked out the window at the stars passing by, she felt something strange. She felt alive. News of the razor spine kill spread through the monster division fast. Yuna became something of a curiosity. The tiny human who was not supposed to be there had killed a mid-level threat by herself. Some hunters thought it was luck. Others thought the reports were exaggerated. But Squad 7 knew the truth, and they started treating Yuna differently. Hyunwoo began including her in mission planning. At first, Yuna just listened while the experienced hunters discussed tactics. But slowly, the commander started asking her opinion. "What do you think, Yuna?" became a common phrase in briefings. The next mission came 2 weeks later. A breeding pair of void shrikes had been spotted near a research station. Void shrikes were strange creatures that could phase in and out of normal space, making them almost impossible to catch. They were not particularly dangerous unless cornered, but they were protected species that belonged in sanctuaries, not loose near civilian stations. The mission was to capture them alive and return them to a proper facility. "Standard approach," said Borum, one of the other squad members. "We corner them, use stun nets, haul them to the containment unit. They will just phase out when we get close," Dong Yun pointed out. "We have tried this before with void shrikes. It never works. What if we do not corner them?" Yuna said. Everyone looked at her. "Explain," Hyunwoo said. Yuna pulled up the file on void shrikes on her tablet. "It says here they only become aggressive when threatened or when protecting their young. And it says they mate for life and stay together during breeding season." "Yes," Hyunwoo said. So what if we do not chase them? What if we let them come to us?" Yuna scrolled through the file. "They are attracted to certain pheromones during mating season. We could set up lures, make a safe space that looks like a good nesting area. When they are focused on mating and nesting, their phasing ability is reduced. We could capture them then without any violence." Borum scoffed. "That could take days, maybe weeks. The alternative is chasing creatures that can disappear at will," Yuna said. "That could take longer." Hyunwoo thought about it. "We try Yuna's plan. If it does not work in 3 days, we go back to standard approach." They set up the lures near an abandoned cargo bay on the research station. Yuna helped design the space to look appealing to nesting void shrikes, using information from the database. Soft materials, warm lighting, and the pheromone lures positioned at strategic points. Then they waited. It took 37 hours. The breeding pair appeared in the cargo bay, phasing in from wherever they had been hiding. They investigated the space carefully, then began building a nest together. When they were fully focused on their nesting behavior, the squad moved in with minimal force. The void shrikes barely noticed the stun nets until it was too late. The mission was complete with 0 injuries and both creatures safely contained. On the flight back, Hyunwoo sat down next to Yuna. "How did you know that would work?" "I did not know for sure," Yuna admitted. "But I thought about how animals behave on Earth. When they are focused on mating or nesting, they are less aware of threats. They prioritize reproduction over safety. I figured alien creatures might work the same way." "Pattern recognition," Hyunwoo said thoughtfully. "You see patterns in behavior." "I guess so." The commander nodded. "Your species evolved as hunters, yes?" "A long time ago," Yuna said. "Humans were persistence hunters. We were not fast enough to catch prey in a sprint, so we chased them for hours until they collapsed from exhaustion. We tracked them, studied their behavior, predicted where they would go. That is a strange way to hunt. It worked, though. Humans spread across an entire planet using those skills." Hyunwoo made a rumbling sound that Yuna had learned meant the commander was amused. "Perhaps that is why you are good at this job. You think like prey, but you hunt like a predator." After that mission, Yuna's role in the squad changed completely. She was no longer just a communication operator. Dong-Yoon began teaching her tracking skills, showing her how to read signs and follow trails. Borum taught her about different weapon types and which ones worked best against different armor types. Another squad member, a silent hunter named Jiho, taught her close combat techniques. Yuna trained hard. She would never be as strong as the alien hunters. Acrolix could lift 3 times what she could. A Vanthari like Hyunwoo had 4 arms and could fight multiple enemies at once. But Yuna learned to use her advantages. She was smaller and could fit through spaces the others could not. She was more flexible and could climb terrain they found difficult. And she could run. She could run for hours. During training exercises, the bigger hunters would quickly overtake her in sprints. But in long chases across rough terrain, Yuna kept going long after the others had to stop and rest. Humans had evolved to regulate body temperature through sweating, something most of the alien species could not do as efficiently. In hot environments, Yuna could outlast almost anyone. "It is not fair," Dongyun complained once after a training run. The big Krolix was breathing hard, sprawled on the ground. "You just keep going." Yuna grinned. "It is called endurance. Humans are built for it." Her 6-month transfer date was getting closer. Minji contacted her to confirm that the paperwork was processing. In 3 weeks, Yuna could move to the logistics division like she had originally planned. Safe work. Predictable hours. No monsters trying to kill her. Yuna sat in her small quarters on the station, looking at the transfer confirmation on her tablet. She thought about spreadsheets and data analysis. She thought about sitting in an office, while other people did the interesting work. Then she thought about the rush of adrenaline during a hunt. The satisfaction of solving a problem that none of the other hunters could figure out. The feeling of being part of a team, of being useful in a real way. She thought about it for a long time. Then she sent a message to Minji. "Please cancel my transfer request. I want to stay in the monster division." Minji's response came back almost immediately. "Are you sure? You could die out there." Yuna typed back, "I could die anywhere. At least here, I am doing something that matters." The next day, Hyunwoo called her into the office. "I heard you canceled your transfer." "Yes, sir." "Why?" Yuna thought about how to explain it. "I like this work. I am good at it. And the squad needs people who can think differently. You have plenty of strong fighters. Maybe you need someone who thinks before they fight." Hyunwoo's 4 eyes studied her. "You understand this is dangerous. We lost 3 hunters before you arrived. We will lose more in the future. Maybe you will be one of them." "I understand, sir." "Good." The commander stood and extended one arm. "Welcome to Squad 7, permanent member." Yuna shook the massive hand. She felt something settle in her chest, like a piece of a puzzle fitting into place. That night, the squad took her to a bar on the station that served drinks for various species. They were celebrating her decision to stay. Dongyun bought her something that tasted like battery acid mixed with fruit juice, but she drank it anyway. "To the human," Borum said, raising a glass, "who was sent here by mistake and stayed by choice." "To Yuna," the others echoed. Yuna raised her glass. She looked around at her squad, these massive alien warriors who had become her friends. She thought about the clerical error that had sent her here. To the monster division instead of logistics. It was the best mistake that ever happened to her, but she did not know that the real test was still coming. She did not know that in just a few weeks, she would face something that would push every human advantage to its absolute limit. She did not know about the apex. The alarm woke Yuna at 3 in the morning, station time. She jumped out of bed, already reaching for her gear. A division-wide emergency alarm meant something very bad had happened. She ran to the briefing room. The entire monster division was gathering, not just Squad 7 but all 12 active squads. Yuna had never seen them all together before. Over 100 hunters filled the room, representing dozens of species. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Director Kyung-soo, head of the entire monster division, stood at the front. The director was a Vauntari like Hyunwoo, but older and covered in scars that spoke of decades of hunting. When the director spoke, everyone listened. 4 hours ago, Galactic Security raided an illegal genetics laboratory on Kessler Prime, Kyung-soo said. The screen behind the director showed footage of the raid. The lab was creating bioweapons in violation of 23 different treaties. During the raid, the specimens escaped. The footage showed chaos. Security forces in armor, firing weapons at things moving too fast to see clearly. Bodies on the ground. Burning equipment. Most of the specimens were destroyed or recaptured, King-Su continued. Except for one. The lab called it Project Apex, a Class 10 threat. The room went very quiet. Yuna had learned the threat classification system. Class 1 was minor, things that could hurt civilians but were easy to handle. Class 5 was serious, requiring experienced hunters. Class 10 was the highest rating, reserved for creatures that could destroy entire settlements. What is it? Someone asked. A perfect predator, King-Su said grimly. The lab designed it to hunt and kill effectively against any species. It is fast, strong, armored, and intelligent. Very intelligent. It has already killed 24 security personnel and 3 senior hunters. The screen showed a blurry image, probably from a security camera. Yuna could barely make out a shape, something low to the ground and moving with terrifying speed. Then the camera went dead. The creature is currently moving toward a civilian evacuation zone on Kessler Prime. 6,000 people are trying to get off planet before it reaches them. All squads will deploy to contain and eliminate the apex. Squad 7 will assist with civilian evacuation. Any questions? No one had questions. They all knew what this meant. Some of them would not come back. The flight to Kessler Prime took 3 hours. Yuna spent the time checking and rechecking her gear. She had a pulse rifle, a sidearm, 3 types of grenades, and a combat knife. Her armor was light compared to what the other hunters wore, but it was all she could move in effectively. Hinwoo gathered the squad in the dropship's cargo bay. Our job is simple. We protect the civilians while they evacuate. The senior squads will engage the apex directly. We stay at the evacuation point. What if the apex gets past them? Jiho asked quietly. Then we slow it down long enough for the civilians to escape, Hinwoo said. No matter what. They landed on Kessler Prime, an industrial complex near the evacuation zone. The planet was mostly factories and warehouses, all metal and concrete. The civilian evacuation was happening at a starport 2 kilometers away. Between the starport and the apex's last known position was this industrial complex. And Squad 7. They set up defensive positions and waited. Yuna could hear the evacuation over the comm. Thousands of voices, people scared and confused, trying to get onto transport ships. Children crying, parents shouting, chaos. All squads, be advised, a voice came over the comm. The apex has broken through the containment line. Multiple hunter casualties. It is heading toward the evacuation zone. Yuna's hands tightened on her rifle. Squads 4 and 9 are moving to intercept, the voice continued. All other squads maintain positions. Minutes passed. Then, squads 4 and 9 are down. Repeat, down. The apex is static. It is coming here, Donghyun said. Hyen Woo activated the comm. Command, this is Squad 7. The apex is heading directly for the evacuation point. We need immediate support. All senior squads are engaged or down, came the reply. Reinforcements are 30 minutes out. You need to hold. 30 minutes. 6,000 civilians. 1 perfect killing machine. Understood, Hinwoo said. The commander turned to the squad. We spread out through the complex. Use the terrain. Slow it down. Do not try to fight it directly. Just buy time. Commander, Yuna said. Let me lead it away. What? I am the fastest runner here. And the smallest. I can fit through spaces it cannot. Let me draw it into the complex, away from the civilians. I can keep it busy. That is suicide, Borum said. Maybe, Yuna agreed. But if it gets to the starport, 6,000 people die. If I can keep it here for even 20 minutes, the reinforcements arrive. Yunwoo stared at her with all four eyes. You will not survive 20 minutes against a Class 10. Probably not, Yuna said. But I can try. The commander was quiet for a long moment. Then, Dongyun Jiho go with her. Set up collapse points and fire traps through the complex. Everyone else, secondary positions around the starport in case the plan fails. Yuna, Dongyun, and Jiho ran deeper into the industrial complex. They worked fast, setting up things that would slow the apex down. Dongyun used demolition charges to weaken support structures that could be collapsed. Jiho set fire traps using chemicals from the factories. Yuna mapped out a route through the complex, finding the narrowest passages and the most confusing paths. I do not like this, Dongyun said. You are going to die. If I do, make sure it means something, Yuna said. Get those civilians out. Before Dongyun could respond, an explosion shook the complex. They heard screaming over the comm, then silence. It is here, Jiho said. They split up. Dongyun and Jiho went to their positions. Yuna ran toward the entrance of the complex, toward the apex. She saw it when she rounded a corner. The camera footage had not done it justice. It was about the size of a large tiger, with 6 legs and a body covered in black scales that seemed to absorb light. Its head was sleek and eyeless, relying on other senses to hunt. When it moved, it was impossibly fast and completely silent, that it had not noticed her yet. It was investigating something, probably the scent trail left by the evacuating civilians. Yuna fired her rifle at the ground near it. Not to hit it, just to get its attention. The apex's head snapped toward her. It had no eyes, but she felt it looking at her, analyzing her, deciding if she was worth chasing. Then it charged. Yuna ran. She led it through the route she had planned, through the narrow corridors and tight passages. Behind her, she heard the apex following, its claws clicking on metal floors. It was so fast. Too fast. But the corridors were narrow, and she was small enough to make tight turns without slowing down. She activated her comm. First checkpoint coming up. Ready, Dongyun responded. Yuna ran through a large warehouse space. The moment she was clear, Dongyun triggered the demolition charges. Part of the ceiling collapsed, tons of metal and concrete falling where the apex had been. Yuna kept running. She did not look back. She heard the sound of rubble shifting, then the clicking of claws on metal. It was still coming. It got through. She gasped into the comm. Moving to checkpoint 2. The next hour was the longest of Yuna's life. She led the apex through the complex, using every trick she could think of. Fire traps that it jumped through without slowing. Collapsed corridors that it climbed over. Narrow passages that barely slowed it down. Every time, it was right behind her. Getting closer, Yuna's body was failing. Her legs were cramping. Her lungs felt like they were full of broken glass. She had been running at full speed for over 40 minutes, longer than any human should be able to sustain. But that was the thing about humans. They did not know when to quit. She stumbled into another warehouse. Her legs gave out and she fell, rolling across the floor. The rifle skidded away from her. She tried to stand but could not make her legs work. The apex entered the warehouse. It moved slowly now, knowing she was finished. It approached carefully, its eyeless head tracking her every movement. Yuna reached for her sidearm with shaking hands. Then, she heard the most beautiful sound in the world. The roar of dropship engines. All civilians evacuated. Hayam's voice came over the comm. Reinforcements arriving. Yuna, where are you? Warehouse 7, Yuna whispered. Hurry. The apex charged. Yuna fired her sidearm, knowing it would not stop the creature, but needing to try anyway. She got off 3 shots before it reached her dot. Then the wall of the warehouse exploded inward. Hyunwoo came through, followed by what looked like half the monster division. The apex tried to turn, but it was too late. Multiple squads hit it at once with everything they had. Yuna must have passed out because the next thing she knew, she was on a medical transport. Her entire body hurt. She tried to sit up. Stay down, a medic told her. You ran for 53 minutes at combat speed. Your legs are a mess and you have 3 cracked ribs from the fall. You are lucky to be alive. The apex? Dead. And 6,000 civilians are safe because you bought us the time we needed. Yuna lay back down. Her whole body was shaking, and she could not stop it. She had survived. Somehow, impossibly, she had survived. Yuna woke up in the medical bay 3 days later. The first thing she saw was Hyunwoo sitting in a chair next to her bed, which had to have been specially reinforced to hold the Vonthari's weight. The commander looked tired. You are awake, Hyunwoo said. How long was I out? 3 days. The doctors said your body needed the rest. You pushed yourself beyond normal human limits. The commander paused. They said most beings would have collapsed after 20 minutes of what you did. You kept running for almost an hour. Yuna tried to sit up. Pain shot through her ribs and legs, but she managed it. Did everyone make it out? The civilians? All 6,000. Not a single casualty. Hyunwoo leaned forward. You saved them, Yuna. The senior squads could not stop the apex, but you slowed it down long enough for the evacuation to complete. I just ran, Yuna said. That is all I did. You ran when anyone else would have died. You ran when the apex was right behind you. You ran until your body gave out, and then you kept running. Hyunwoo made that rumbling sound that meant the commander was amused. Do you know what the other squads are calling you now? The Endurance Hunter. They are saying you hunted the apex the way your ancestors hunted prey on Earth. You did not find it. You just outlasted it. Yuna thought about that. About ancient humans chasing animals across the plains until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. She had done the same thing, except instead of chasing prey, she was being chased by a perfect killing machine. And she survived by doing what humans did best, refusing to stop. There is something else, Hyunwoo said. Director Kyung-soo wants to see you when you are recovered. The Galactic Security Bureau wants to make you an offer. 2 days later, Yuna was able to walk again, though her legs still hurt. She made her way to the director's office, wondering what this was about. Maybe she was getting fired for disobeying orders. She had, after all, volunteered for a suicide mission without permission. Director Kyung-soo was waiting, along with 2 beings Yuna did not recognize. One was human, an older woman in a military uniform with more medals than Yuna could count. The other was something that looked like a floating jellyfish made of light. Yuna Park, Kyung-soo said. Let me introduce Admiral Hana-song, commander of Earth's security forces, and Representative Loomis from the Galactic Council. Yuna stood straighter, ignoring the pain in her ribs. Ma'am, Representative. Sit down before you fall down, Admiral Song said. She had the kind of voice that people obeyed without thinking. We have been reviewing your file. Clerical error sent you here, and in less than 6 months, you became one of the most effective monster hunters in the division. The incident with the apex has gotten attention at the highest levels. The floating jellyfish spoke, its voice like wind chimes. Your performance has been remarkable. You have demonstrated abilities that we did not know humans possessed. I just did my job, Yuna said. You held off a Class 10 threat alone for nearly an hour, Kyung-soo said. That is not just doing your job. That is exceptional skill combined with exceptional courage. Admiral Song pulled out a tablet. We want to offer you a promotion to Senior Hunter, effective immediately. You would command your own squad and have priority selection of missions. But that is not all. She looked at the jellyfish. Tell her. Representative Loomis drifted closer. We want to establish a human recruitment program for the Monster Division. Based on your example, we believe humans have unique advantages that make them excellent hunters. Endurance, pattern recognition, adaptability, creative problem solving. We want you to help design the program and train the first recruits. Yuna sat back, stunned. You want me to train other humans? Not just train, King-Su said. We want you to show the galaxy what humans can do. For too long, other species have thought of Earth as a backwater world with weak inhabitants. You have proven that wrong. Now we want to make it official. What about Squad 7? Yuna asked. What about Hyunwoo and the others? They will continue with a new member, King-Su said. Though Commander Hyunwoo has requested to assist with the human training program when available. He says, and I quote, someone needs to make sure they do not die from overconfidence. Yuna almost laughed. That sounded like Hyunwoo. So what do you say? Admiral Song asked. Will you accept? Yuna thought about it. She thought about the scared girl who had walked into orientation 6 months ago, expecting to spend her career looking at spreadsheets. She thought about the clerical error that had sent her to the Monster Division instead of logistics. She thought about every hunt, every mission, every moment when she had been terrified but pushed forward anyway. She thought about those 6,000 civilians who were alive because she had refused to give up. Yes, Yuna said. I accept. 6 months later, Yuna stood in the same orientation room where her journey had begun. But this time, she was at the front, not hiding in the back. She wore the dark uniform of a senior hunter, with the insignia of squad commander on her shoulder dot. In front of her sat 20 human recruits, all of them fresh from Earth's academy. They looked nervous and excited and completely unprepared for what was coming. One of them, a young man named Taiho, raised his hand. Senior Hunter Park, is it true you killed a razor spine on your first mission? Yes, Yuna said. But that is not the important part of the story. What is the important part? The important part is that I was terrified the entire time. I had no idea what I was doing. I just refused to let fear stop me from doing what needed to be done. She looked at each of them. That is what being a hunter means. It does not mean you are never scared. It means you do the job anyway. Another recruit raised her hand. They say humans are not as strong as other species. How are we supposed to compete? Yuna smiled. We do not compete with strength. We compete with endurance, with intelligence, with adaptability. The galaxy has plenty of species that can win a fight through raw power. What they need are hunters who can track prey for days, who can outlast any chase, who can think their way around problems instead of just hitting them harder. She walked to the front of the room. You are all here because someone looked at humanity and saw potential. Not the potential to be the strongest or the fastest. The potential to be the most persistent, the most creative, the most stubborn. Stubborn? Taiho asked. Stubborn, Yuna confirmed. Because when a creature has you pinned down and everyone else has given up, stubbornness is what keeps you fighting. When you have been running for an hour and your body is screaming at you to stop, stubbornness is what keeps you running. Humans have survived and spread across an entire planet not because we were the apex predators, but because we refused to quit. That is our strength. The door opened and Hyunwoo walked in. The recruits stared at the massive 4-armed Vauntary. The commander looked at them and made that grinding sound that meant amusement. I am Commander Hyunwoo. I will be assisting with your training. I want to make something very clear. The commander pointed at Yuna. When this human first joined my squad, I thought she was weak, fragile, useless. I was wrong about all of that. In 6 months, she became one of the best hunters in the division. Not despite being human. Because she's human. Hume will walk to stand beside Yuna. You are going to face things that are bigger than you, stronger than you, and designed to kill you. But you have something they do not have. You have millions of years of evolution that taught your species how to survive against impossible odds. Use that. Be patient when others are reckless. Be enduring when others tire. Be clever when others rely only on strength. The commander looked at Yuna. And listen to your senior hunter. She will keep you alive. After orientation, Yuna stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Hyungwoo joined her. Feeling nostalgic? The commander asked. A little, Yuna admitted. I keep thinking about that clerical error. If it had not happened, I would be in logistics right now, looking at inventory reports. Do you wish things had gone differently? Yuna thought about it. She thought about all the fear, the pain, the moments when she thought she was going to die. She thought about the apex, about running until her body gave out, about waking up in the medical bay not knowing if she had succeeded. Then she thought about Dong Yun's life saved. 6,000 civilians evacuated. 20 new hunters getting ready to prove what humans could do. No, she said. I do not wish things had gone differently. Hyunwoo made an approving sound. Good, because tomorrow we have a mission. Reports of a shadow stalker in the mining sector. Class 7 threat. What time do we leave? Dawn. Station time. It will be good to have you back in the field. Senior hunters are not supposed to spend all their time teaching. Yuna grinned. Are you saying you miss me, Commander? I am saying Squad 7 has a new member who keeps trying to arm wrestle Dong Yun. Someone needs to explain to him why that is a bad idea. They stood there for a while, watching the stars. Yuna thought about how far she had come. From a data analyst who got sent to the wrong division to a senior hunter commanding her own squad. From someone who was afraid of monsters to someone who hunted them. The clerical error that sent her to the monster division was the best mistake that ever happened. Not just for her, but for every human who,